The palace of Velrathia stood tall under a red sky, its silver towers glowing with cold light. From far away it looked peaceful, like a dream carved from metal and glass. But inside the walls trembled with sound. A sharp cry echoed through the halls again and again. It was not the sound of war or thunder. It was the cry of a baby, the royal heir of the alien Queen Zarila. Every guard, every servant, every nanny feared that sound, because it always ended with someone being fired. Or worse, the Queen's patience was a myth. In just 2 months she had dismissed 15 nannies. Some ran away, some were taken by palace guards, and no one dared ask what happened after that. The reason was simple. The baby never stopped crying. Even the bravest caretakers had failed. They tried alien songs, soft lights, strange floating toys from other worlds. Nothing worked. Every time the Queen entered the nursery, her cold eyes would flash with anger, her long silver claws twitching. "Enough," she would say. "You are dismissed." Now the palace halls had grown silent with fear. No one wanted to be near the royal nursery. That morning, a human janitor named Eli Graves walked through those same halls, pushing a small cleaning cart. He was quiet, calm, and a little tired. He had come from Earth only a few months ago, one of many humans hired to clean and repair the alien palace. He didn't belong among the tall, proud Velrathians with their sharp armor and glowing skin. They barely noticed him. That was fine with Eli. He liked to stay invisible. He cleaned, fixed broken machines, and tried not to get into trouble. But today, a confused palace guard pointed him down the wrong hallway. Room 3 Alpha. "Go," the guard barked. Eli nodded and followed the direction, unaware that 3 Alpha was the royal nursery. As he opened the door, he froze. The room was huge and bright, filled with floating crystals and toys that spun in the air. In the center lay the baby, small, wrapped in gold fabric and screaming so loudly that the lights flickered. Eli's heart jumped. "Oh no, hey there, little one," he said softly, looking around for someone, anyone. But the room was empty. No nurses, no guards, only the baby and the echo of its cries. He stepped closer, careful not to touch anything. The smell of strange flowers filled the air. The baby's face was red with tears and its small hands reached out, shaking. Eli sighed. "All right, I guess it's just you and me." He didn't know what else to do. So he did what his mother used to do when he was a child on Earth. He began to hum, a soft, simple tune, a human lullaby, old and slow with no words, only warmth. The sound filled the room like calm wind. The baby's cries slowly grew quiet. Its glowing eyes blinked wide and surprised. Then, for the first time, it smiled. Eli smiled too. "Oh, there you go, little buddy. That's better, huh?" But before he could finish, the door burst open. Guards stormed in with weapons raised, glowing blue blades humming. Behind them came Queen Zarila herself, tall, graceful, and terrifying. Her eyes shone like silver fire. The air grew heavy as she entered. "What is this?" she demanded. Her voice was sharp enough to cut metal. Eli froze, his hand still raised near the crib. I'm sorry. "I was told to clean this room." "I didn't mean—" "Silence!" the Queen hissed. Her claws glimmered. "You dare touch my child?" The guard stepped forward, ready to drag him out, but then the baby made a sound. A soft giggle. Everyone stopped. The Queen blinked. The child had never laughed before. She turned slowly toward the crib. The baby reached out, tiny arms waving toward Eli. The Queen's expression changed, confusion, disbelief. "You, human," she said coldly. "What did you do?" Eli swallowed hard. "Nothing, Your Majesty. I just sang." It calmed him down. The Queen's eyes narrowed. Impossible. Yet the proof was right in front of her. Her son was quiet, peaceful. The guards exchanged nervous glances. No one dared speak. Zarila stepped closer, studying the human's plain face, his trembling hands, the sweat on his brow. He looked fragile, nothing like the warriors she commanded. And yet her child reached for him again. The Queen said nothing for a long moment. Then, in a low voice that carried both curiosity and warning, she asked, "Who are you, human?" Eli hesitated. "Just a janitor, ma'am." A faint flicker passed through her eyes, a strange emotion she had not felt in years. The palace fell silent. Even the guards waited for her next words. Finally, the Queen spoke. "Very well, janitor. You will stay." Eli blinked. "Stay? You seem to have done what no one else could." Her voice softened slightly. "You will care for the prince. For now. And just like that, the fate of a forgotten human janitor changed forever. Outside, the red sun of Velrathia rose higher, casting long shadows across the shining palace. Inside, in the nursery that once echoed with screams, silence finally returned. The calm before something far greater than anyone could imagine. The palace had never seen anything like it. A human janitor walking beside the queen herself, while alien nobles whispered from the shadows. They had seen many strange things, wars, treaties, and even humans coming to clean their royal halls. But this was different. This was dangerous. Queen Zarila moved through the corridors with her usual power and grace, her long gown shimmering like liquid glass. Beside her walked Eli Graves, still holding his cleaning gloves in one hand, unsure if he was dreaming or about to be executed. He had not slept since that morning. Every corner of the palace stared at him. He was the man who made the royal baby stop crying, the first person in the galaxy to do it. Some called him lucky. Others whispered that he must have used some kind of forbidden human trick. The queen stopped outside the royal nursery door. "You will stay here," she said coldly. "Do not touch anything without my order. Do not speak unless spoken to." Eli nodded quickly. "Yes, Your Majesty." Then softer, almost like she was speaking to herself, and she added, "If he cries again, you will sing." Eli blinked. "Sing, ma'am?" The queen looked at him, her eyes unreadable. "Whatever you did before, do it again." She turned and left, her golden armor whispering with each step. The door closed, leaving Eli alone with the royal child. The baby lay in a cradle made of crystal and silver. Strange lights floated above it, spinning slowly like small planets. Eli sat nearby, afraid to move. He had never cared for a baby before, not even on Earth. Yet when the little alien looked up at him, its eyes glowing faint blue, he felt something stir inside him. The baby smiled, a tiny, quiet smile. Eli smiled back. "You're not so scary," he whispered. He began to hum again, that same soft human tune. The baby cooed and waved its hands as if trying to catch the sound. The floating lights pulsed with the rhythm of his voice. But then something strange happened. The room's sensors began to beep. A thin blue light scanned across the baby's body, then flashed over Eli's chest. The palace computer spoke in a cold, mechanical tone. "Unidentified energy resonance detected." Eli frowned. "What? I'm just singing." The baby giggled louder and the scanner's light turned bright white. A small symbol glowed faintly on the baby's arm, a mark that looked like a circle with lines spreading from it like a tiny sun. Eli leaned closer. The same symbol was glowing, faint but visible, under the sleeve of his shirt on his right wrist. He froze. "What in the world?" He rubbed the mark, thinking it was dirt or oil, but it didn't fade. It shimmered, soft and warm, almost like it was alive. Later that evening, the queen returned. Her sharp eyes scanned the room. No crying, no mess, no chaos. Only peace. The child was sleeping soundly, and Eli was sitting beside the cradle, humming quietly. Queen Zarila's cold expression softened for a moment, then quickly hardened again. "You have done well, human," she said. "Thank you, ma'am," Eli replied, standing quickly. But as she turned to leave, she noticed the faint glow on his wrist. "What is that?" Eli hesitated. I don't know. It just showed up when the baby stopped crying." The queen's face darkened. "Show me." He lifted his sleeve. The mark pulsed softly, the same color as the symbol on her son's skin. For the first time, Queen Zarila looked truly unsettled. "That symbol," she whispered. "It belongs to the royal bloodline. It should not appear on a human." Eli stepped back, confused and scared. "Maybe it's a mistake. I didn't do anything. I swear," but the queen wasn't listening. She reached out her hand, and her long claws glowed faint silver as she scanned the mark. The air grew thick and cold. Then a flash. Images flooded Eli's mind. He saw a tall alien city covered in green vines and light. He saw Velrathians and humans walking together, long ago before the wars. He saw the same glowing mark painted on walls, on armor, on banners. He gasped and stumbled back. The queen's voice cut through the silence. "What did you see?" I don't know," Eli whispered. "Memories. But they weren't mine." The queen's claws stopped glowing. She studied him with new eyes, not as a janitor but as something else. Something she couldn't explain, You will not leave this palace, she said finally, until I know what you are. Eli swallowed hard. I didn't ask for any of this. Neither did I, the queen said quietly, looking down at her sleeping child. But fate seems to have other plans. Outside, thunder rolled across the alien sky. The palace lights dimmed for a moment, and deep underground, something ancient stirred, a forgotten force awakening for the first time in centuries. Eli didn't know it yet, but the mark on his wrist was no accident. It was a bond, a secret older than both their worlds. The red sun of Velrathia rose slowly over the crystal towers, but inside the royal palace the light felt cold. Eli Graves hadn't slept all night. Every time he closed his eyes, strange visions flashed through his mind. Cities that weren't human, people he didn't know, and that same glowing mark shining brighter than before. He sat beside the royal baby's cradle, whispering softly, "What's happening to me?" The baby, half asleep, blinked and smiled at him, the same peaceful smile that had started all of this. Eli looked at his wrist. The symbol was clearer now, lines circling and pulsing like a heartbeat. It wasn't just a mark anymore. It was alive. Outside the nursery, whispers filled the hall. The queen had called her royal scientists. They stood in a nervous group, clutching silver scanners and glowing devices. "Your Majesty," one of them said, bowing deeply. "The human carries resonance matching royal energy patterns." "It's impossible." Queen Zarila's face remained calm, but her tail twitched, a sign of deep unease. "Impossible or not," she said coldly, "it happened. My son shares a connection with him." Another scientist spoke, fear trembling in his voice. The royal line was blessed by the Ember Core, long before humans existed. For a human to share that mark, it defies our laws of creation. The queen turned her silver eyes toward the nursery door. "Then perhaps it's time we question what we think we know." Inside, Eli felt the air shift. The door slid open and the queen entered, followed by her scientists. The baby stirred, sensing his mother's presence. "Stand," she ordered. Eli obeyed, his heart pounding. He felt like an insect surrounded by giants. One scientist raised a device shaped like a glass ring. "We need to test your energy field," he said nervously. Eli frowned. "Will it hurt?" "Only if you lie," the scientist muttered. The device hummed, sending out waves of light. The mark on Eli's wrist glowed bright white. The same glow rippled through the baby's cradle. The air grew warmer and then alive. Suddenly, Eli's mind was pulled somewhere else. He wasn't standing in the palace anymore. He was seeing. He saw a world bathed in green light, not Velrathia as it was now, but as it used to be. Towering forests, rivers of silver, cities powered by harmony, not fear. And he saw the queen, younger without her crown, laughing among her people. But then came darkness. Warships in the sky, screams, fire, and a machine buried deep beneath the palace, its core pulsing with light, the Ember Core. A voice whispered through his mind. The bond was broken. Until the human heart reopened it, Eli gasped. The vision shattered, and he fell to his knees. The queen stepped forward, her voice sharp. "What did you see?" He looked up, sweat on his face. I saw you. The old Velrathia, before everything went wrong." The room went silent. Even the baby stopped moving. The queen's claws clenched. "No one alive remembers that time," she said softly. "How do you know?" "I don't," Eli said, shaking his head. "It's like the mark showed me." It's trying to tell me something," one of the scientists whispered. "Your Majesty, the human may be linked to the Ember Core itself." The queen's gaze turned to him sharply. "The core is sealed. No one touches it." "Then explain this," the scientist said, pointing. "His energy signature is identical to yours and the child's." The queen stared at Eli for a long moment, not as an intruder, but as a mystery she couldn't solve. That night, while the palace slept, the mark glowed again. Eli sat awake, afraid to close his eyes. The baby stirred and whimpered. He reached out, gently touching the tiny alien hand. The glow spread between them like warm light. Suddenly, the baby's breathing stopped. Its skin turned pale. "Hey, no, come on!" Eli panicked, lifting the child. The mark on his wrist flared like fire. Light exploded from both of them, filling the entire nursery with golden energy. Outside, alarms screamed. Guards ran toward the room. Inside, the queen burst in to find Eli on the floor, holding her baby, alive, healthy and glowing softly in his arms. The mark on both their bodies pulsed together, in rhythm. "What have you done?" she whispered, trembling. Eli looked up at her, his voice quiet and tired. "I didn't do anything, it just happened." The queen stepped closer, staring at the light fading from their skin. "You shouldn't exist," she said. "But maybe you're the reason my son does." For the first time, her voice wasn't cold. It carried something fragile, something almost human. Outside the window, lightning flashed over Velrathia's sky, as if the planet itself had felt the spark of something awakening. The human janitor had unknowingly awakened the heart of a dying world, and nothing would ever be the same again. The palace no longer felt safe. For the first time in her rule, Queen Zarila sensed fear inside her own walls, not from enemies beyond, but from the people closest to her throne. It began with whispers. Servants who used to bow with pride now lowered their heads and spoke in low voices. Guards glanced at one another before obeying orders. The nobles avoided her gaze. Everyone was talking about the human janitor, the man who carried the royal mark. They called it a curse. Some called it a prophecy. Others said the queen had broken tradition by trusting a weak, soft-spoken human more than her own kind. And somewhere deep in the palace, behind gold walls and closed doors, a secret council gathered to discuss one thing: removing the queen. Eli didn't know any of this. He only knew the queen had been colder than usual lately. She barely spoke when he entered the nursery. Sometimes she watched him and the baby for hours without a word, her silver eyes unreadable. He tried to act normal, singing, cleaning, and keeping the royal child calm. Yet something inside him kept whispering that danger was growing. That night, as he hummed the baby to sleep, the door slid open. The queen stood there, her armor dimly glowing in the half-light. "Human," she said softly. "Tell me something." Eli looked up. "Yes, Your Majesty." "Why do you stay?" He blinked. "Stay? You could ask to leave. You could walk away, go back to your world. But you remain here in a place that looks at you with hate." "Why?" Eli hesitated. He thought of Earth, the noise, the crowds, the emptiness. Then he looked at the sleeping baby, peaceful and quiet, and said, "Because someone has to care for him, and maybe because this is the first place where I feel needed." For a long moment, the queen said nothing. Then, her voice softer, she replied, "You are strange, human." He smiled a little. "I've heard worse." A sound, faint but sharp, and interrupted them. A whispering click from behind the wall. The queen froze. Her instincts sharpened. She pressed her clawed hand against the wall, and her eyes widened. "Guards," she hissed. But before she could call out, the lights flickered. Then came the explosion. The shockwave hit like thunder. The nursery doors blew open, smoke flooding the hallway. Alarm screamed. Eli grabbed the baby and dropped to the floor as shards of glass rained around him. The queen moved fast, faster than any human could see. Her body shielded them both as more blasts echoed through the corridors. From the smoke, figures appeared, cloaked in black armor, bearing royal insignias. Not outsiders, not enemies. Her own soldiers, traitors, she whispered. Eli could barely breathe. "What's happening?" The queen's voice was cold steel, a revolt. "My own council has chosen to take the throne." Another blast shook the walls. The cradle toppled. Eli held the baby close, coughing through the smoke. "We need to move." Zarila nodded. She pressed a glowing crystal on her wrist. A hidden escape route opened behind the nursery wall. "Go," she ordered. "What about you?" "I will hold them off." Eli's heart pounded. "No, you can't fight them alone." The queen looked at him, her face lit by red light and fire. "I have ruled through fear for too long. Maybe this is how it ends." But Eli shook his head. "No, not like this." Without thinking, he grabbed her arm, and the mark on his wrist flared like fire. The same light surged through her veins, wrapping them both in a shimmering shield. The next blast hit, but the energy barrier held. The attackers staggered back, blinded. The queen stared at him in shock. "You protected me," he gritted his teeth. "Looks like I did." They fled through the secret passage. Smoke filled the air, and the palace shook as alarms wailed in every direction. The baby cried softly in Eli's arms, but when he started humming again, the child quieted, and the glowing light returned. Guiding their way through the dark tunnels behind them, the sound of weapons clashing echoed through the walls. The queen's guards were fighting their own brothers. When they finally reached the lower chambers, the queen pressed her hand to a stone door. It opened with a low hum. Inside was an ancient hall, filled with forgotten carvings, symbols of the old Velrathian bond between ruler and protector. Zarila looked at Eli. Her eyes filled with something new, not pride, not command, but respect. "The mark saved us," she said. "It should not exist, yet it shields me. Shields my son. You, a human, carry power my blood cannot explain." Eli looked down at the glowing symbol on his wrist and whispered, "Then maybe it's not about blood. Maybe it's about heart." The queen's gaze softened, but before she could reply, the ground rumbled again, louder, deeper, like the world itself was awakening. From beneath their feet came a voice, not human, not alien, but ancient. "The bond has been restored, but the test has just begun." The queen and Eli froze. The baby's mark shone bright gold, answering the voice from below. In that moment, they both understood. The revolt was only the beginning. Something far older and far more powerful was waking beneath the palace. The palace burned. Smoke curled through the grand silver corridors of Velrathia, turning beauty into ruin. The once shining walls shook under explosions, and red emergency lights painted everything in blood-like color. The revolt had begun in full. Queen Zarila and the human janitor Eli Graves stood inside the underground hall, where the ancient carvings glowed faint gold. The royal baby slept against Eli's chest, safe under the shimmering energy field still pulsing from the mark on his wrist. Above them, chaos reigned. Gunfire, screams, the sound of collapsing towers. The queen could hear her guards dying one by one. "We can't stay here," Eli said, his voice shaking but firm. "They'll find us." The queen's silver eyes glowed faintly. "If they find us, they'll kill you first." "You have defied our order, human." He gave a tired grin. "Yeah, story of my life." The sound of boots echoed through the tunnels. A group of armored soldiers appeared, led by a tall alien noble with a scar across his face. Lord Vrax, the queen's former war commander. "Your reign is over, Zarila," Vrax shouted. "You've weakened Velrathia with your softness and your obsession with that human pet." The queen stepped forward, claws shining like blades. "You dare call yourself loyal?" "Loyal?" Vrax sneered. "I am loyal to our people, not your weakness." His gaze shifted to Eli. "And you, human. You brought this curse upon us. That mark belongs to our gods, not your filthy kind." Eli tightened his hold on the baby, his heart pounding. "I didn't ask for this. But if you want to hurt them, you'll have to go through me." The soldiers laughed, the sound cold and sharp. "Then die as you lived," Vrax said, cleaning after others. The soldiers raised their weapons. Eli looked at the queen. Her claws were ready, her stance fierce, but there were too many. Something inside him snapped. A voice whispered in his head, calm and ancient. "The protector does not wait for orders. He acts." The mark on his wrist burst into golden light. Energy surged through his body, hot, alive, unstoppable. He stepped forward, still holding the baby close. "Stay behind me," he said quietly. The queen blinked. "You're insane," probably, Eli said. "But I'm not letting your kid die." Then he moved. The first blast came fast, and a bolt of plasma screaming through the air. Eli raised his arm, and the mark glowed brighter, forming a golden shield that absorbed the hit like ripples in water. The soldiers froze. Another fired. Another. The same result. The blasts bent and vanished into the light. Eli charged forward, swinging his arm like a hammer. The golden energy exploded outward, knocking the attackers off their feet. The tunnel trembled. Vrax roared and drew his own weapon, a spear crackling with blue lightning. "You're no warrior," he shouted. Eli grinned weakly. "Never said I was." He swung the energy again, clashing with the spear. Sparks filled the air. The mark burned hotter, spreading across his veins like fire. Every strike echoed with a deep hum, the same rhythm that calmed the baby before. The queen watched in silence, stunned. She had seen soldiers die without fear, but never this. Never a human who fought not for glory or power, but for a child that wasn't even his. "Eli," she shouted. "You'll kill yourself." He laughed breathlessly. Wouldn't be the first job that almost did. The last soldier fell. Only Vrax remained, his armor cracked, eyes burning with hatred. "You've doomed us all," he hissed. A human cannot carry the ember's power. It will consume you. Eli stumbled, panting, his body shaking. Maybe. But at least I'll go out doing something that matters. He raised his glowing arm one last time. The mark shone like a small sun. The energy wave that followed blasted Vrax backward, slamming him into the far wall with thunderous force. The tunnel collapsed above him, burying him under rubble. Eli fell to one knee, exhausted. The golden light dimmed. The baby began to cry softly, but alive, safe. The queen knelt beside him, touching his shoulder gently. You had protected me again, he smiled faintly. Guess I'm making a habit of it. For a moment, the unshakable queen of Velrathia looked uncertain. Why, she whispered. Why do you risk your life for someone who rules through fear? Eli looked up at her, his eyes tired but kind. Because someone's got to show you another way. Outside, the explosions grew louder. The palace was falling. The queen looked toward the ceiling, then at Eli. You've awakened something, old human. Something even I can't control. He nodded slowly. Then we'd better find out what it wants. The baby's mark pulsed again, golden, bright, and alive. And the floor beneath them rumbled like thunder. Far below the palace, deep under the planet's surface, the ancient Ember Core awakened fully for the first time in centuries. Its voice echoed through the halls. Calm and powerful. The protector stands. The bond endures. The world will remember. Eli stared upward, breathing hard. He didn't know what was coming next, but he knew one thing for sure. He wasn't just a janitor anymore. He was part of something far greater. A story written in fire and heart. The fires of Velrathia faded into quiet smoke. The revolt was crushed, but the palace was scarred. Black walls, broken statues, and silence that felt heavier than death. In the lower halls far beneath the throne, the queen and the human janitor stood together before a massive door made of crystal and stone. Strange symbols glowed across its surface, ancient markings that pulsed with the same rhythm as the light on Eli's wrist. He stared at the door, sweat running down his neck. You said this was sealed for centuries? Queen Zarila nodded slowly. Yes, no one has ever opened it. It leads to the Ember Core, the heart of our world. My ancestors built it to connect the royal bloodline with the life of Velrathia itself. Eli looked down at the baby in his arms, sleeping peacefully. Then why is it reacting to me? The queen didn't answer. Her face was unreadable, part fear, part curiosity, and something else she didn't want to name. As they stood before the great door, the ground trembled. A voice deep and layered echoed through the hall, neither human nor alien. Two hearts linked by choice, not blood. The bond has returned. Eli froze. Did you hear that? The queen nodded slowly. The ember speaks. It hasn't spoken since the age of the first queens. The door began to glow brighter and the mark on Eli's wrist burned with it. He gritted his teeth. It's hot. Light shot from the floor, surrounding him and the queen in a golden circle. The air shimmered. Then in a blinding flash, the door opened. Inside was a massive chamber filled with floating pillars of energy, bright gold mixed with deep blue. It was alive. The walls pulsed like a beating heart, and at the center, suspended in light, floated the Ember Core, a crystal sphere, larger than a starship engine glowing with ancient power. As they stepped closer, voices whispered all around them, hundreds of them like echoes from forgotten time. The bond, broken by fear, restored by courage. The heart of Velrathia beats once more. Eli stared at the sphere. What is it saying? Queen Zarila's voice trembled. It remembers. The core pulsed and light touched both of them. In that moment, visions filled their minds, shared between human and queen. They saw the past, a time when humans and Velrathians stood together, not as enemies but as allies. Two races connected by the Ember Link, each ruler bonded with a protector, one who carried empathy, the other power. Together they kept peace across galaxies, but greed broke the bond. The Velrathian rulers grew proud and forgot their human protectors. The Ember Core, heartbroken, sealed itself away, waiting for the bond to be reborn. Eli fell to his knees, breathless. So that's why the mark appeared. It wasn't random. The queen's eyes widened, shimmering with shock. You mean, my child and you are part of the same bond. The Ember chose you. He looked up at her, voice quiet. Maybe it chose both of us. The chamber shook violently. The core flared red for a moment and a new voice, sharp and metallic combines, cut through the air. Warning. Power imbalance detected. The link is unstable. The Queen's gaze turned to Eli. What does that mean? It means, said a familiar voice from the shadows, the human is killing your world. Eli turned sharply. From the smoke near the door, Lord Vrax emerged, scarred, half-broken, but alive. His armor sparked with blue light powered by forbidden technology. You thought you destroyed me, Vrax hissed, but I serve something far greater. The machine gods of the outer worlds. They will free Velrathia from weakness. The Queen's eyes blazed. You fool. You've joined those who destroyed our past. Vrax smiled coldly. The past is dead, but your world still has energy to steal. He raised a weapon, a spear humming with dark energy. The core's light flickered violently. The chamber screamed with power. Eli stepped forward, standing between the Queen, the baby, and Vrax. You'll have to go through me again, Vrax sneered. You think the Ember loves you, human? You're nothing but a spark, and sparks die. He struck when a blinding wave of blue energy shooting forward. Eli raised his arm, but the mark flared too bright, too fast. The Queen screamed, Eli, stop! But it was too late. The energy collided, gold against blue, and the entire chamber exploded with light. When the brightness faded, the core's voice echoed softly, trembling like wind through glass. The bond is pure, but one must choose, life of the world, or the life of the bearer. The Queen knelt beside Eli, who lay motionless, his wrist still glowing faintly. The baby reached out, touching his hand, and the glow pulsed again. Eli opened his eyes weakly. Guess I'm still here, the Queen's voice broke. The Ember demands a sacrifice. He smiled faintly. Then maybe I can give it what it needs. She shook her head, her silver eyes full of something no one had ever seen. Tears. You have already given enough. But the core's glow deepened, its voice echoing once more. The choice must be made soon, or the bond will break forever. As the chamber darkened and the planet trembled, the Queen realized the truth. Her throne, her power, her entire world, all now depended on one fragile, ordinary human, and Eli Graves, the janitor from Earth, might be the only soul who could save it. The sky of Velrathia was no longer red. It had turned a strange color, half gold, half gray, as if the planet itself was holding its breath. Lightning danced silently between clouds, and the ground trembled with each heartbeat of the Ember core. Far beneath the palace, inside the great glowing chamber, Queen Zarila stood over Eli Graves, the human janitor who had become her world's last hope. He was weak now. The golden mark on his wrist flickered like a dying candle. The baby, her son, the heir to the throne, rested beside him, tiny hand clutching his finger as if refusing to let him go. The Queen's voice cracked softly. You've done enough, human. Let the Ember take me instead. Eli smiled faintly, eyes barely open. It doesn't work that way. Your Majesty. The core pulsed again, and its voice filled the room, calm, deep, almost sorrowful. The bond cannot be shared by fear or by force, only by choice. The Queen looked up at the sphere of light. Then I choose. Take me. Too late, the Ember said. The bond is already chosen. Eli weakly pushed himself up, coughing. Listen, I didn't come here to be anyone's savior. I came to clean floors. He looked at the Queen and her son. But I think maybe some floors are worth cleaning. A sudden explosion shook the chamber. The far wall split open and Lord Vrax limped in, his armor cracked but burning with blue fire. You can't stop it, Queen, he shouted. The machine gods are already feeding on your core. Your world will be ours. The Queen raised her claws, ready to strike, but Eli stepped forward. No, he said softly. This time I end it. The mark on his wrist flared one last time, gold brighter than sunlight. The baby's mark glowed too, and together, their lights merged into one blazing beam that shot straight into the Ember core. The chamber roared. The walls shook. The core's light expanded, filling everything. Vrax screamed as the golden energy engulfed him, tearing the corruption from his body and disintegrating his armor. The darkness vanished, burned away by the bond's purity. When the light faded, silence returned. Only the soft hum of the core remained. Eli fell to his knees, barely breathing. His skin glowed faintly, almost translucent. The Queen caught him before he fell completely. Eli, stop, she cried. You're killing yourself. He smiled weakly. Guess I was never supposed to last long here anyway. The core spoke once more, its voice soft as wind. Balance restored. The bond complete. The human's life fades, but his heart remains within the ember. The queen shook her head violently. No, I forbid it. You will not take him. The choice was made, the core whispered. The protector gives. The ruler learns, the queen's voice broke. Then take me too. Your path is not done, Queen Zarila. Lead them well, as he would have. The light around Eli dimmed. The baby's cries filled the chamber, a soft, painful sound that echoed like a song of goodbye. Eli turned his head slowly toward the queen. Promise me something. She leaned close, tears falling down her silver cheeks. Anything. Don't rule with fear anymore, he whispered. Rule with heart, her voice trembled. I will, he smiled, weak but peaceful. Good. Then I didn't clean for nothing. And with that, the light from his mark spread across the floor, rising up into the core. It pulsed once, twice, then glowed steady and calm. Eli's body shimmered, not disappearing but becoming part of the golden light itself. The mark remained faintly on his clothes, like a memory carved in fire. Then he was gone. The queen held her child tightly, staring at the core. The whisper of his voice lingered in the air. One human heart can change a world. When she emerged from the depths of the palace hours later, her people waited, tired, broken, and afraid. The fires had ended and the skies were golden once more. She raised her son in her arms, her voice strong and clear. Velrithia will no longer be ruled by fear, she declared. Today we honor the protector who showed us the power of kindness. Every alien bowed, not from command, but from respect, and high above the palace, the red sun turned completely gold for the first time in 1,000 years. Years later, stories would spread across stars of the alien queen and the human janitor who tamed a cursed child, saved a dying world, and awakened the heart of a civilization. Some called him a hero, some called him legend. But among the people of Velrathia, his name meant only one thing: hope.